Just days away, speaking of some of those top prospects, to take the field at Lucas Oil Stadium, as Tom laid out, different participation levels for each position group and star and whatnot. It's up to them, but how much they show and how well they show is also up to them. Players that we want to keep an eye on, though, look, Peter, kind of a tee up to this week. Yeah. Like, here's a name, just watch how the narrative unfolds for this guy. I'm
going to use last year as a baseline. Last year at this point, everyone was talking about Aiden Hutchinson. Trayvon Walker came out and dominated the combine and went first overall. Tyree Wilson is a Texas Tech defensive end. He's not going to likely do much. He's got his foot coming off an injury right now, and I don't know if athletically he's going to feel right to go at the combine. But I will tell you this, and after a year of hearing about Will Anderson and Jalen Carter and Miles Murphy, all these guys that we'd been hearing about, this is your quote-unquote late rising prospect. Tyree Wilson is an absolute beast off the edge, and he's out of the Big 12 at Texas Tech, which is not a factory for pass rushers over historical times. Tyree Wilson is the name I'm watching, because every year we get out of the combine and it's like, okay, this was the list beforehand, and now this is the list after. He's not even going to likely do much. He's going to do the bench, is what Tom Pelissero said. But the amount of teams that I've spoken to have said, yes, Carter, yes, Anderson. Yes, the Clemson guy. And, oh, what about Tyree Wilson? I'm fascinated to see if he's this year's Trayvon Walker. Even without the workout, he's the guy that by the end of this thing, we're talking about Tyree Wilson. Started off at Texas A&M, went to Texas Tech, played outside linebacker mostly. In the NFL, projects to be a defensive end. But an absolute beast. Where's number 19, which is an unlikely number for a pass rusher, and he pops off the screen. Go Google Tyree Wilson versus Texas, and you're going to see why scouts are doing flips over him. I like those kind of guys, the ones that not everyone was talking about during the college season, but then after you digest the tape, you say, well, wait a second, what about him? I wouldn't be shocked if he goes in the top 5. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes in the top 3. Tyree Wilson, a name we hadn't heard all college season. He might be your guy that everyone's talking about after the combine.
And to your point, even if he doesn't participate in the drills, this combine is a great time for teams to get him in the meetings, put them on the board and ask them questions about their defense. You get to see kind of behind the curtain what a guy can pick up and learn in those meetings, and you learn a little bit more about him. And a guy I'm fascinated by and looking forward to watching is Zay Flowers, the wide receiver out of Boston College. Earlier in the season, I got a chance to go watch the first game, him going against Rutgers, my alma mater. And I'm in Boston, I'm going to the game, and I just want to see my guys. And this guy, number 4, is all over the field. Electric. Steve Smith, our colleague from the network, referred to him as a jitterbug. He's a guy, when the ball is in his hands, he's hard to tackle. But he's not just a catch-and-run guy. There's deep balls. He can do it all over the field. A really, really good route runner. And I saw one of his interviews. He's 13 siblings. 13. Really? Yes. So that's where he got his competitive nature from, because everything was a competition. Who was faster, who was better at whatever given sport they were playing. So he is a guy I want to see, because we watch the film and you see highlights of him. You see him running past people. You see him stopping on a dime, hitting them with the dead leg, the stanky leg, whatever you want to call it. This is the type of guy you want to see at the combine, because you want to see what his 40 is, how high he jumps, how far he jumps in a broad jump. You want to see if that athleticism you see on the film, if it shows up on the combine, because you already know the kid can play, and he's undersized a little bit, but when you can make plays, that kind of goes bigger than whatever you can do or whatever your size shows up as a playmaker in the NFL.
I agree, and I see what you both did there. You're picking guys that not everyone knows about, and I think the same way. I'm going to stay at wide receiver. I'm going Jackson Smith and Jigba, because now everyone didn't get to see him last year. You didn't see him in 2022. Just 3 games.
Saw him in that bowl game 2 years ago.
Very limited action, but you turn back on the film and you go, no Olave, no Garrett Wilson in the bowl game. 347 yards and 3 touchdowns against Utah. Goes nuts. And we've been watching this highlight all morning. We keep talking about Stroud, and Stroud throws on the ball against Wisconsin. Hits him with the ooh-wee. Oh, hits him with the ooh-wee for offense, right, J-Mac? And I want to see what he does at the combine now. They say he's not a top-end speed guy, but if he goes and runs faster than everyone projects, then he goes out there, he catches the ball well, looks good in agility drills. Now we're sitting here like, all right, yeah, he didn't play in 2022, but when we turn on 21, 1,600 yards and 9 touchdowns. So now we're like, all right, we got good film on him. A last guy that did this goes in the first round, Jamar Chase, didn't play the year before, opts out of the COVID year. Comes in, just 1,400 yards, 81 catches, and 13 touchdowns. So now is a team looking like, oh, man, and Jigba Is he the next Jamar Chase? And I think that's what this combine is about. It's not about the kind of blue chip foundation guys. Every team wants to seem like, and GM and head coach, they want to be like, see how good I am? I found this guy and no one thought he was good. So I think Njigba falls in that category. Everyone's going to go back, watch him. Everyone wants to talk to him now. Yeah. What does he know? What did he learn last year sitting out? Did he still pick up the offense? Did he get better? He played a lot in the slot. Can he play outside? Can he do different things? And teams will get to ask him those questions throughout this week.
The question with him is like the top line speed. I'll never forget being at the combine in 2020. It was right before COVID. And everyone was like, Justin Jefferson's good and had good numbers, but he's going to run a 4.7, 4.6. Then he ran a 4.4, and everyone's like, oh, okay. And those numbers, and the production, and he's a great kid. That's what he has an opportunity to do.
And what has he been doing all year? Training. Yeah. He might go and kill that combine. He might run this thing in like 18 steps, and people are like, whoa, he worked on his form.
That's the thing about the combine. I think it should almost be renamed like Translation Day, because it's like, how do your skills and your numbers translate? Because I'm watching you guys watch film of college players that you probably don't have the time to watch in the regular season, and that's great. You watch them, and I can see your eyes and your brains are working like, that's interesting. I wonder how that would play at the next level, because you guys would know best. Y'all went with names that you want people to know about, a name that people have heard a lot about, but I think they need to know more of is Anthony Richardson. He's the quarterback out of Florida. A lot of Will Levis and Bryce Young talk, but here's the thing about Anthony Richardson. A Miami-based product, goes to the University of Florida, redshirts his first year, plays a couple of games with redshirts. His second year has his first start ever. I did the game, Florida-Georgia, going up against a #1 defense in Georgia at his first start. They get blown out 34-7 or something like that. But this young man walking into that production meeting was as physically intimidating to me as Will Anderson. That is a parallel that I am willing to make.
Huge?
Dwight Howard shoulders. I'm telling you.
Wow.
Across the board. And then the situation was fascinating as well, because his best friend, the quarterback that he came in with to Florida, Emory Jones, was starting to not play well at Florida. And the entire fan base was calling for Anthony Richardson to start over his best friend, Emory Jones. Walks into this meeting, handles himself impeccably. An interesting young man that this was clearly a hard situation for him to be in. I think he's going to interview well this week. I think he wants to show not only his physical gifts and his skills, but the fact that this is a person and a young man that you can draft, and an organization is going to have to stake their claim on them and make them maybe not their guy tomorrow, but the guy of the future. I think he's unbelievably gifted. A lot of comparisons are being made, and I know it's always. I did speak with Gary Danielson about Anthony Richardson because he watched the most. Josh Allen is the running capability and the athleticism that he was able to see on film, at least. The other interesting thing that Gary pointed out to me was that, in terms of NFL translation and how it translates to the next level, no one benefited more than Anthony Richardson from Jalen Hurts' Super Bowl performance in terms of the ability to tuck the ball and run, because that's where offenses are going now.
It's great.
When he said that, I was like, damn, you're right, because Jalen Hurts blew people out of the water with how he played in that Super Bowl. And if that's how the quarterback play is going to go, Anthony Richardson is the kind of guy that
he had a run against LSU. I tweeted it out over the weekend. It's an 80-yard runs, and he's stiff-arming guys, and he's just shaking people. And the athletic ability is all there. The size is all there.
It's unbelievable.
The questions are the accuracy. But if, to your point, if Josh Allen's questions were about accuracy, why can't someone else improve their accuracy?
Jalen Hurts' questions were about accuracy as well. And he obviously, if that's the thing that you can put the work in on and fix, then you're fine. He also had like an unbelievable fake for a 2-point conversion. That was fantastic as well.
And I think this combine gives these teams a chance to really dive into that. You talked about Jalen Hurts. He came in his first year starting. Going into this season, we were all questioning that, but I think for the Eagles, being around him, doing your research, it was like, this type of kid, this work ethic, we know he can get there. And when you watch Anthony Richardson's highlights, I mean, they're just they're unbelievable.
I also love the fact he's going to compete. Like, I might be old school in this. Anthony Richardson, according to Tom Pelissero, was like, I'll do all the drills. I'll showcase everything. I'll never forget Josh Allen unleashing one 70-yard bomb, and it was an incomplete in the combine, but everyone there being like, that's it.
Yeah.
When you have the opportunity to compete at the combine, it's different than the pro day, where it's basically your own mixtape. You disagree?
I'm not all in on it. For a quarterback, I feel like it's so different. Like, if I show up and I'm a wide receiver, like, I'm just running fast. If it's a bad pass, it's just like, all right, the quarterback blew it. For a quarterback, if I'm used to throwing a guy that runs a 4.5, and now I have somebody out there running 4.3, and I'm throwing a go ball, I may look a little bit different. So I like the competition aspect of it, but if I'm more comfortable where I'm back home and I'm throwing to my guys, I think it kind of benefits you a little bit more.
Most guys do that now.
Yeah, because for a big name quarterback, they're all coming to the pro day anyway. If I'm drafting them, possible top 5.
I agree
top 10.
with that if you're limited talent-wise. If you have the talent that this kid has, Richardson, you go and do it. Because like you said, Josh Allen missed for 70 yards, but people loved it. You watch Zach Wilson, he's rolling left, throwing back in a shorts and T-shirt, and people are like, oh, imagine the next Mahomes. So for Richardson, for one, you're going to walk in these meetings, and like you just said, Jamie, all of the scouts are going to be like, whoa.
Oh,
then they're going to see you in shorts and a T-shirt. Hopefully he goes and wears a tight shirt, goes out there, looks great, because that's what the people care about.
Yep.
And he's throwing the ball all around the field. People are going to go back and go, man, this guy, he has more talent than I thought. If I get him or we give him to this guy, and I think that's what it's about. If I have the quarterback guru and I put him in the room with him, he'll be great. And I think he's going to climb the boards.
It's one thing to go back and do your own Pro Bowl day. You're standing next to guys that are on your team. If you can do it in Indianapolis against the 10 other guys that are in your group, that also looks very good if you can compete well on a